Novak Djokovic might be out, but the Metaverse is in at the Australian Open. Welcome to the Daily Forkast, January 17th, 2022. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forecast News, covering all things blockchain. The Australian Open tennis tournament has kicked off this week, and for the first time, you can make a virtual visit. We are stepping into Decentraland to take a look at the action, plus a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. First up, an ingenious way to check out a campus in COVID times and lockdowns in China. The Communication University of China has launched the country's first virtual university, allowing people a chance to visit and consider without having to go in person. The university developed the Metaverse experience in its laboratory of virtual entertainment. Yes, they do have one. And visitors can check it out via the Chinese search engine giant Baidu's XiRang Metaverse platform, which launched in December. The university has also begun hosting events, including 20th anniversary celebrations and an award ceremony at the virtual campus. And it seems like virtual classrooms is a natural next step, but no word on that just yet. Over in South Korea, in a first for the country, Democratic Party lawmaker Kwang-jae has started accepting political donations in cryptocurrencies. Lee's website accepts donations in a variety of cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Korean internet giant Kakao's native token, Clayton. And according to the website, receipts will be issued in the form of NFTs. The lawmaker who heads up the presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung's Future Economy Committee said that in order for policies on crypto in Korea to change, awareness of blockchain technology in the political space needs to increase. You can find those stories and a whole lot more at forecast.news. Meanwhile, as Novak Djokovic found out, it is not easy to travel to Australia for the Tennis Open this year, but you can still get a feel for the action by heading to tennis court, that is, virtually. Forecast News' Lachlan Keller has been for a look around.
Visitors to the virtual version of Melbourne Park can chill out at the beach house or check out the ballpark just like in the real world. You can also watch classic matches or head courtside in the Rod Laver Arena to try your luck at earning rewards in a tennis game, which proved harder than maybe it ought to have been. Tennis Australia says that like with the real life event, their aim is to improve the experience every year.
Whether it's providing people with tennis or music or shopping or brilliant restaurants on site, it's all part of an ecosystem that is so much more than just watching a ball go back and forth.
Alongside being able to visit the virtual arena, 6,776 unique art ball NFTs have been created, each linked to an individual plot on the court and offering not just unique artwork, but match statistics and the chance to win real championship balls. Those aspects added an interesting challenge for the developers.
We're really inspired by trying to bridge the mainstream gap for NFTs in general, and also continuing to explore the uncharted territories of Web3.
The initial art ball sale sold out within minutes, but many are now available for resale on the OpenSea marketplace. And the tournament continues in both the real world and the Metaverse until January 30th. For Forecast News, I'm Lachlan Keller from Melbourne, Australia.
It's every investor's nightmare and a black eye for trust in the industry. In Hong Kong, customers of the Hong Kong-based crypto exchange CoinSuper have been unable to withdraw money or tokens since November. Police are now involved, and there are now calls for broader regulatory oversight in the city. So how did this happen, and what impact will this have on exchange activity in Hong Kong and beyond? Who better to ask than Henry Chong, CEO of Fusang. Fusang aims to reshape investment markets with blockchain technology. And it's great to have you with us, Henry.
Always happy to be here, Angie.
Okay, so what does this say about the need for mandatory regulation in the digital space?
I think it's critically important for regulators in jurisdictions everywhere to think about regulation. I think that the crypto industry has grown to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. You can't just sweep it under the rug. You do need, as a regulator, to deal with these issues head on. And I don't think people in the crypto industry should be worried about this. And a lot of people try and avoid regulation sometimes, or we see it almost as a dirty word. But any game needs rules. That's what allows us to actually interact and play the game. That said, as important as it is for regulators to come in and be willing to regulate in a cogent fashion, I think it's just as important that individual investors also take responsibility for themselves and want to do business with platforms that are regulated.
Now in Hong Kong, you talk about the environment. Exchanges opt in, meaning they apply to be regulated. And the thing is, not every exchange does, and there's recognition from regulators. They have to move away from that model. So just how should regulation work? Should there be a separation of licenses or approvals between operations and aspects of the business that deal with the client's money? Or, for example, between onboarding and client monies? Could making regulation more bite-sized have benefits? What are your thoughts there?
More and more regulators everywhere are starting to look at putting in rules, regulations. Recently, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority came out of a consultation paper looking at stablecoins, for example. It's fantastic to see this kind of progress in the industry. It's also very important that they make sure they link this up with other regulators in Hong Kong, for example. But even in addition to the regulatory layer, making sure that firms are licensed, and really to me that just means that there's some degree of oversight for an activity that they are doing, that they need to subscribe to certain rules of the game, as I call it. Just as important a layer is understanding as an individual, when I do business with a firm, what is that actual legal relationship with me and the firm? Exactly as you mentioned, financial services firms do a number of different jobs, but understanding what exactly is going on, what services you're providing is mission critical.
And then there's also other vehicles one could consider, like tokenizing securities. So how might that prevent or limit a situation like the one with CoinSuper in future?
I guess I think about all of this in really three broad layers. You talked about regulation, right? Having rules of the game, that's very important for firms. We talked a bit about legal contracting relationships, equally important to understand how that works between me and a platform. But really the third layer is also understanding what exactly does this asset or the token represent? What kind of rights and obligations am I getting as the owner of the token? Am I even considered the owner of a token, or is that something a little different? And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people really understand when I hold a token, maybe around an NFT or some other kind of digital asset, that in many cases you have no legal rights or obligations whatsoever. And under the law, if I am not, this is not ownable property, or it's not something that's been registered in my name, it may not even be obvious that it has been stolen. So in this event with CoinSuper, if you say I can't withdraw my Bitcoin from the exchange, it can be very unclear in terms of what rights I might have at all. It's not a regulated platform, so regulators can't step in. You may or may not have signed any kind of legal agreement with the platform, so no obligations there. And it may not even be clear as to how ownership of that asset works in the first place. That is why I've always been a big believer in tokenized securities.
It's using that technology of tokenizing the world that could add a layer of protection in this case. Great insight there, as usual. Henry Chung of Fusang, thanks so much for joining us today. And that's the Daily Forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. Thanks for starting the week with us here. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit that alert button. We're here for you Monday to Friday, every day with a new report. We appreciate it, as always. Helps us reach our goal to reach more of you. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.